What's up, YouTube, and welcome to another episode of my Gamer Pro Tip series. Haven't made one of these in a while, but I thought I would show you a technique that I use to clean the very rare and desirable Saturn jewel cases. The supply of these has really dried up. You can buy repros now, obviously that's the caveat, but I really like to keep my collection original. And a lot of times when I'm out and about game hunting, I will find just cheap, junky sports games that happen to have an uncracked case, if I can find these at a good price, and then I'll swap the case over to one of my other games that may need a better case or have a crack. Pretty harmless way to do it. The problem is, in 2022, even crappy Saturn sports games are now $10 and up in many cases. So unless you find a lucky find like I did yesterday, there's not a whole lot of these to grab out there. But if you do, I recommend this technique. So what I like to do with these is just give them a once-over to get them as nice as they can possibly look. Obviously, they've been through the ringer, they've been through shelf damage, gamer collections, resale stores, you name it, over the last 25 or so years. And there's a lot of just overall damage to the case themselves that you'll see upon close inspection. So I'm using this one just as an example. I'm hoping the camera will pick this up. And while the case itself is pretty clean and uncracked, you will see upon closer inspection that there's just a lot of these little scratches in the case, hazing, sometimes some light discoloration, things like that. I'm just kind of panning over it so you can take a look. And ultimately it bothers me. I want the case to look as clean as possible, and over the years I've actually found a method to get these looking pretty good. So the first thing you want to do is just give them a good cleaning. Obviously if there's any stickers from stores, things like that, no surprise, you want to use your good friend Goo Gone. Give them a good, careful wipe over, and make sure you're very gentle in how you press on the case when you're wiping it, because if you give any pressure to the top of the case and it starts to stress the hinges, guess what? You're going to crack your uncracked case, which is obviously not the goal of what we're trying to do today. A couple other things you can do is you can take the hinge loose. Just be very careful and pop the edge of it off there. Set that down, and then you can work with just the lid, sometimes by putting pressure under the top cover as you clean. That might help too, so you're not bending it or anything like that along the way. So that's one method we can use, but I think the big thing we want to stress is just what you can use to help fill in some of those cracks or just get rid of some of the haziness from it. So as a car fan, I've also learned other products that are good for using on cars, and ultimately I found this one made a nice translation to my gaming collection as well. And I'm going to recommend Mother's brand plastic polish. Other detailing car equipment, they make other plastic polishes out there. You don't have to buy the Mother's brand, but this has worked well for me. And so since I've had luck with this with car applications, thought I would call it out as something you could use on repairing jewel cases. So yeah, as you can see, the tagline is that cleans, shines, and protects and removes scratches, which is exactly what we're trying to do on a plastic surface. So what we're going to use with the Mother's polish is just a simple microfiber towel, just nothing, you don't want anything too aggressive, and you want to just put a good little dollop of that on the towel. And one thing I'll call out is you need to shake it first, which I did not do before my first little dollop, so let's try again. So we're going to put a little bit on the towel. I'll show you what that looks like here once I get that going. And it's kind of runny even once you do shake it up. That's why I wanted to make sure I did that, but just to show you that. So just be aware, it's kind of messy to work with. And I'm actually going to start on the case that needs the most love. This currently has a Batman Forever manual in it, which is not something I want to get wet, so I'm actually going to remove the manual, put that to the side. And again, I'll give you kind of a close-up. You can see all those scratches, haziness, swirls, you name it, that's on the surface. So no sleight of hand being done here. Again, I'm going to put my hand underneath it just to give it some counter pressure as I rub on it. And we're just going to take our Mother's soap towel and just gently wax on, wax off. You know the routine, right? We've all seen Dr. Miyagi teach us this technique, and it works just as well for taking care of your game cases as it does for polishing your car. And really what you're doing with the Mother's, this is a lightly aggressive sand, I guess I would say, that is actually, I don't know if it's sand, but you know what I'm saying, like it's actually sanding off the surface level and getting down to the next level, still protecting the case itself, but ultimately taking off some of those scratches that you see at the top. So you're just giving it a nice little buff by doing this. I've had good luck with this, even with some of the yellowed cases too. So even if you see a Saturn case out there and you're like, oh, I don't know, that's kind of got some cigarette discoloring, it looks like, or just some other yellowing, you might have typically passed on that, but I've actually had some good luck bringing things back using this on those two. Made a pretty good pass on the case, and you'll actually see that the case the cover is going to look really hazy as you put the mothers on. So now it almost looks opaque. Not so hot, right? So we want to let that sit for a little bit. I'm actually, just for kicks, going to do the other side as well. Usually the insides of the jewel cases are pretty good. It's really the outside, the part that got all the shelfware, that sees all the battle damage, but just for fun, I will go ahead and clean the inside too. Again, just be very gentle. You know, these top covers of the jewel case are really what tends to break the most, and ultimately what we're trying to save here, so you don't want to break it in the process of trying to make it better. That would not be the goal here. But so far so good. Our hinges are still intact, and the cover is still looking good. So again, you see that haziness both sides of the case. You're obviously not going to leave it this way. Just let it sit for, 30 seconds or so. It doesn't have to be on there too long. It's actually part of the instructions on the mothers. I just want to call that out, that you do want to let it dry to a haze. And then you're going to take a clean cloth and wipe everything off there. It says, again, turn the towel frequently for best buffing action. So we're actually going to use the same cloth. I'm just going to use another side because I got a pretty big one here. So I'm just flipping that over, making sure I got a dry edge of it here. Looks like this side's good. And again, I'm going to start at the top because we did that side first. Just going to wax on, wax off. And you're just gently drying all of the mothers off of the case. And you'll be able to see some of that haziness pick up off there as you're wiping. So if you're ever unsure, you can always give it a second pass. So that looks pretty good for the top. We're going to do the underside now. And this actually does speed up as you do several of these. I'm just kind of slowing it down for the demo, so you'll be able to knock these out pretty fast if you get several of them. Make sure I got that edge there. And so far it's looking pretty good. Alright, so that should take care of the underside. I'm just looking for a couple smudges that might have been made on the top. And don't expect perfection, but I tell you what, it's pretty pleasing to see it come out. So here you go. Again, there are a couple little scratches in there. You could probably even do another pass if you wanted to, but you'll see that the case is much more transparent than it was before. Some of those larger scratches that were at the bottom don't stand out as much. I'll put the manual back in just for visual effect. And if that was on your shelf, I'm willing to bet that you would be pretty impressed with the result. It looks pretty darn clean. Probably took years off the case of that game. So just a great technique you can use. Again, you can also do it for the bottom of the case as well. Typically the bottoms of the cases don't get as much wear, but this will also perk up as well if you do the same technique on that. Hopefully this helps somebody. Again, I'm just trying to preserve as many of these original Saturn cases and even PS1 long boxes and Sega CD long boxes. I should call out they use the same case. Trying to preserve as many of these as we possibly can. Again, I know it's sometimes good to get the repro stuff, but to me the original has its own charm. So hopefully this helps somebody out. Thank you very much for watching. Please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.